Hi everyone, this is Aaron for Zolotech, and we're going to be comparing the Droid 2 Global to the Droid 2. Now, the first and obvious thing is that the boxes are larger for the Droid 2 Global than they are for the Droid 2. The Droid 2 Global has to accommodate a bunch of different accessories that include a SIM card, a bunch of different adapters for other countries, along with wall plugs and things like that, and sync cables, where the normal Droid 2 does not need to accommodate all of the different countries that you may be traveling to outside of the United States. In the Droid 2, we simply have some paperwork along with our wall plug and micro USB adapter. Let's go ahead and put the boxes away and take a look at the phones themselves. The Droid 2 Global versus the Droid 2 are very difficult to distinguish physically. Physically, they're identical, so let's go ahead and take a look at the front screen. The dimensions are the same, the screen is the same, they're both capacitive touchscreen, and they both have this kind of a titanium look to them. If we slide them open, they're both landscape QWERTY keyboards, and they are identical. If you can take a look at that, they both have a blue border. They actually feel the same. I've read in some instances where they say that there's more bumps on the Global, which is this one, than the Droid 2. I don't see that at all. I don't feel that at all. They feel about identical to me. Let's go ahead and close them. On the side, you can see we have our micro USB cable connectors. On the bottom, we have our microphone for when we're talking on the phone. On this side, we have our camera buttons and our volume up and down buttons. Same exact thing. On the top, we have our 3.5mm headphone jacks and our sleep-wake on-off button. On the back, we have 5-megapixel cameras with dual LED flash and speakers along the bottom. Now, the differences come when we slide these open and look at the back. As you can see, the batteries are similar. However, on this one, we have a SIM card slot, and that SIM card is to accommodate the different radio frequencies that GSM uses overseas, or the different radio bands to transmit data to those. You cannot put an AT&T SIM card in here and let that and have that work on AT&T in the United States. Not by default anyway, or T-Mobile or anything like that. Now I don't know of any way around that. That doesn't mean there isn't, but default setup, you can't just do that. Now the batteries are the same, everything else is the same, and we have 8 gigs of internal memory in the Droid X and the Droid 2 here. So let's go ahead and put these back on and take a look at the front where we have the UI. Both phones have been set up to use default settings. They have not had any of my information input. I activated the phones and that's it. As you can see, we have a little less battery on the Droid 2 Global, but let's go ahead and unlock both of them. And as you can see, this one's giving me some tips on Android, but other than that, they're basically the same UI. If I open the drawer here for the preloaded software, we have pretty much the same thing. We do have a little bit difference in that we have some more business-related apps on the Droid 2 Global by default according to the specs. But other than that, there isn't that big of a difference. You can see Quick Office here. It's just basically the same thing. Now, the big difference comes in play when you're talking about speed. The processor speed in the Droid 2 Global, which is this one, let me just show you to prove it here. There's the SIM card. The Droid 2 Global has a 1.2 gigahertz processor. It's basically an overclocked version of this phone. It's the same exact thing, but it's overclocked. Now, in some reviews, I've read that this gets worse battery life. It's pretty minute, but it does get worse battery life, and that's probably due to the extra processing power. As you can see, the home screens are fairly similar. You have voicemail, they're just in different orders, kind of facing each other, which is interesting. And let's go ahead and swipe to the screens. You can see this one has some pictures set up. I have not changed these at all. This is the default setup that when I reset the phones, turn them on, and this is what we get. Go back this way. We have more calendar apps. Now, this is more set up like the Droid Pro If you're familiar with that, we do have data usage and things like that for when you're overseas. Let's go to the next screen. And here we have, this is more of basically the Moto Blur UI that's tacked onto here as opposed to the regular Droid UI that goes on the Droid 2. And as you can see, there we go. So there are a couple different UI differences, but really they're very close. And I don't even know, honestly, now if you can get the Droid 2 new. I think they just offer the Droid 2 Global according to Verizon's website anyway. If that's not the case, though, let me know down below in the comments. Now, there's really not a whole lot more to go into here. We do have some different settings. Let's go into settings. The main difference on this one is we have the same setup as the Droid Pro where we have profiles. We can have a different profile. Let me move this here. We can have a different profile. Well, there's the accelerometer working. Different profile for home, work, and weekend. Basically, other than that, we can set up a work profile. It will switch. And now we can have something where we can have our email on the home page. When we go home, we can have our games on the home page. It's really not too big of a difference, but it's a handy little feature that could be useful in that sort of environment. Other than that, there really isn't that big of a difference. So I would say if you had a choice between the two and they cost the same, go with the Droid 2 Global just because of its speed. And if you ever do travel outside the country, you'll be able to use it instead of having to get a cheap phone or a loaner phone. You'll be able to use the Droid 2 Global outside of the country due to its SIM card. Other than that, though, if you have any other questions you want to see specifically, there isn't a whole lot more to go into here other than the little bit difference in the UI, different more business-related apps. But other than that, there's not much difference. If there's something, though, specifically you want to see, please let me know, and I'll try and make that video for you and show you that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and do that. And let me know what you think of the phones. And if you have either one, I wouldn't mind if you'd put some feedback down in the comments. I always appreciate that. This is Aaron. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.